Greetings. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Thanks once again for joining us. If this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. It's Friday, the 20th of March, 2020, and we're sort of out in the blossoming trees, as you can see behind me. And something kind of came up today that I thought was pretty interesting. What that is that it turns out that Tesla's stock price is actually up today. And so the stock price is up, and that's sort of the focus of our conversation. Why is it up when some really bad news about the shutdown of the factory occurred? This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. Just a reminder, if this is your first time, welcome. If you're a repeat visitor, welcome back. We also want to thank our Patreon supporters as well as our subscribers. If you do enjoy the show, please take time to like and subscribe. So as you can hear, we're battling with the birds here a little bit and a little bit of wind, but it's a short burst of conversation anyway in terms of what's going on with Tesla and its stock price. So what happened today is a friend was doing some trading, and I thought it was surprising that pre-market Tesla was actually up today because some really bad news came out, which is that they're shutting down their production in Fremont. So the open question was, why was this? And so we kind of were watching for something that's called a pin. And what that PIN, what that means is that you try to pin the stock in a certain range. So one of the analysis that sort of pops up relative to pins and how they work is that usually Tesla has a bias towards the positive. What that means is that when you have options expiration on a Friday, over the last, let's say, 2 or 3 months, almost every time the goal for when trading Tesla was that the traders were trying to make sure that all the people with call options ended up out of the money. So what that means is that there's a deliberate goal on behalf of the market makers to make sure that those expecting the stock price to rise that are using call options are jammed and made to lose money. So one of the ways you can look at this is there's something called open interest. So if you check for the open interest on puts and calls, what we found out, or what we found through a lot of research, is the fact that the market makers make a great deal of money by ensuring that if there are more calls than puts, the call folks end up losing money. If there are more puts than calls, they make sure the put folks lose money. So when it comes to Tesla, we're in a situation right now that's very unusual, which is there are a lot of people that are expecting the stock price to fall, and therefore the put volume on Tesla is about 1/3 larger than the call volume. And in this case, we're looking at the strike price of $450 a share. So basically, what ends up happening here is that while the stock is supposed to be down, at least overnight it was down 30 points, it's actually been up much of the day, even up to $465 a share. One of our viewers sent me a note saying, oh, this must be what a dead cat bounce looks like, or something of that ilk. And yes, indeed, it could be that. But the one logical thing that you could look at is check the open interest for calls and put at the 450 level. And what you'll find is that there are about 1/3 more puts than calls currently. So one of the goals of the market makers will be to make sure that the stock price ends as near or above 450 as possible. If that occurs, there are a large number of people who hold puts on Tesla that lose a lot of money. And the ratios suggest that that's the goal of the market makers on this trade. So we want to kind of bring this up today because there's a lot of people that are out, watching Tesla's stock price in a strong position. And what this also means is that we're not quite at the 3-day rule yet when it comes to Tesla's news that they're closing. So the large institutions won't aggressively be selling Tesla until Tuesday or Wednesday of next week. So the downdraft that comes with that is not really being felt right now. But the downdraft or the updraft that's being felt because of the aggressive effort to put the calls, or sorry, to put folks out of business is going on right now. So let's remember, it's possible that the great traders within the great firms like a Goldman or others are able to see these numbers because they actually helped create them in that they sold many of the instruments that are out there. So what we're finding fascinating here is the fact that there are different people that will try to come up with different statements for what's going on, but I did think this was kind of fascinating. One of our viewers asked us to talk a little bit more about trading that's going on, and we actually have kind of a friend of the show who does a lot of trading, and one of the things she highlighted to me was the fact that there is something also called the Donald Trump effect. And what that is that every time he comes on to speak, it turns out that the stock market goes down and down significantly. So there are a number of traders that have actually started trading, in essence, the Donald Trump trade, which is that as soon as he starts speaking, especially and including Tesla, it's a really great time to buy puts just before he speaks. And when he's right in the middle of speaking, he's delivered something like 90% of the times in the last 2 weeks. So one individual that I know pretty well was able to make a nice $100,000 off of him speaking. And it'll be interesting to see, as more people understand how this process works, whether or not this trade is as lucrative as it has been over the last couple of weeks. So as you can see, there's some really interesting sort of variables that can move the market around and cause those that are savvy to make some cash. And the president speaking seems like a complete winner. In fact, I know that the friend who made these statements is actually a Democrat, but she has been impressed by Mr. Trump at how he regularly delivers on this trade with very little difficulty. So I just thought it was interesting because he's, it's a very useful thing to consider if you want to make money and if you want to make some money trading. And if you do so aggressively, the compensation could actually be fairly large. So we wanted to sort of highlight these two things because, there's a group of folks that I've been sort of trading with or exchanging ideas with, and it's been fascinating to sort of sit through and listen to the processes they're using to actually leverage information moving in the marketplace to actually make a lot of money. I was actually intrigued also by today because it's fascinating how there are small pieces of information that move the market that could represent very large dollars in terms of income earned. And these two cases are a couple of things that you might want to think about. So as we typically do, I wanted to remind you about our health tips. The first is try to go to bed and wake up at the same time for a couple of weeks so your body can get into a certain rhythm. The second thing that I wanted to note is try to do a 30 SPF if possible. We also wanted to encourage you to consider the 5-2 or some diet in that realm that allows you to have some fasting mixed in with regular eating. And evidently it really helps in terms of mental health and other variables as well. We also wanted to highlight that playing a musical instrument or going dancing once or twice a month can also be ways to tickle the brain power in ways that are unusual and help maintain those faculties as you age. So, we're really into ideas that enhance everyone's health. We also wanted to mention that one of our viewers, Anthony, is a heavy-duty weightlifter, and he highlighted the fact that by lifting a couple of times a week, one of the ways you can maintain bone density is by including weightlifting in your process. So I also wanted to sort of bring this up / highlight it because I think it's actually kind of useful as well. At any rate, we want to thank you for taking time out to join us. This is Greg for Teslafaninsight. In Germany we say tschüss, au revoir in French. Lehit Rod Hebrew, Choda Hafez Farsi, Zdravstvuyte Russian, Ni hao ma Chinese, Hej do Swedish, do widzenia Polish, e bueno e la vita Italian. Any rate, thanks for taking time out to join us. And in Jamaica we say, enough respect, walk good man. Have a great day. Bye for now.